listening to the Rosenfeld Review. This is the Rosenfeld. I'm Lou, and I'm joined by my friend Robin Beers. Hi, Robin. How are you?
Hi, Lou. I'm good. Thank you.
Robin, actually, that's not really true. I know you're a little under the weather with a cold, and since we got on Zoom together a few minutes ago, my throat is scratchy. So that's quite a bug you've got if it's spreading over the internet. So thanks a hell of a lot.
I think we're going to talk about systems theory, and this would be the quantum systems where I'm able to infect you all the way in New York when I'm in California.
Wow. Well, I don't know what to make of that, other than I hope it doesn't work. I hope this is just psychosomatic or some kind of weird empathy on my part. But regardless of all that, I'm really happy to have you on the podcast. It's been nice to work with you on and off the last few years in the conference space, and you're actually one of our speakers at Advancing Research 2025. I believe this is the 6th edition. We started in 2020. Can you believe it? And the conference is taking place March 11th through 13th. Virtually. I believe you're talking on the 13th, on the last day, and it's just lovely to talk with you. If you don't know Robin, I'm surprised if you're in the research field, but Robin is an organizational psychologist, has a PhD in this space, has been in the industry for many, many years. Her practice these days is Ubuntu Culture Company, and Robin is going to be talking about one of my favorite topics. Well, it's about navigating organizational systems as a researcher. But Robin, in the description, you had me at this line. You say that researchers are really going to need to take on a different role, a more powerful, holistic role as knowledge curators. And, that's like my job. I'm a knowledge curator. I mean, I come at it from library science originally, but I'm so psyched to hear you using that expression as the sort of point at which the hook on which you're going to hang this talk. So let's dive right in. What do you mean by knowledge curation, and what does it mean for researchers?
I am obsessed with organizational learning, and really learning in general. And so I see the researchers' role in industry as a curator, an engine, whatever metaphor you want to use, but a catalyst for sparking learning and curating that learning and disseminating it throughout the organization. And so this is a wider lens than just thinking about, pumping out studies for particular products or features or whatever, but really using research to make the organization smarter about itself and about its customers.
Well, okay. So that all sounds great, of course, but why are organizations not the learners they should be? Is it that they haven't been turned on to research as a learning activity, or is there some hardwired thing in the organizational DNA that's even bigger than what research can address?
Yeah, I mean, going through my mind are several thoughts, but if I could probably just hone in on one, I think it's the reason why organizations have a difficult time learning and becoming wiser is because they typically approach business and work through a transactional point of view. And, this started way back in the knowledge management days where, it was recognized that knowledge is a competitive advantage, and there were all of these systems, intranets, knowledge management systems set up to try to capture this knowledge and archive it and make it available so that when the person, eventually moved on from that particular company, doesn't matter. All their knowledge is here. But what I think we all know intuitively is that knowledge is social. It's not just held in individual brains, so therefore it can't be unzipped and put into a machine. It comes about through interacting with, having conversations with people, and hands-on collaboration. It also, knowledge also becomes learning and wisdom through reflection. And I think in the research industry, um, and especially in the tech world, speed and the need to, pump out new products, new features, uh, can really hinder the ability to have that reflexive loop about, okay, what did we learn? What does that mean? And what are we going to do about it? The what, the so what, the now what.
Okay, so organizations have been very transactional, uh, and as you say, and what that makes me think about is almost like it's not that organizations don't want to learn, but that, as you say, first of all, they want to pin down knowledge and keep it close, even if they're people who originally developed that knowledge leave. I get it. But do you feel that like that transactional aspect of how organizations are typically work, that their default mode pertains to knowledge management as well? Like I'm going to hoard what I know because that protects my job security, and I will parcel it out to you in a transactional way. In other words, very carefully. I don't, maybe I trade you when you want something from me that's knowledge. Is that an issue, or is that just taking that
I mean, I think
transactional framing a little too far?
Yeah, I think that those power dynamics can be enacted in some organizations, particularly if they're very hierarchical or they just have kind of a culture of secrecy or, business need to know kind of
Mm-hmm.
first premise. But I think what I'm talking about is earlier you pointed to my company name, Ubuntu Culture Company, and Ubuntu is a relational indigenous concept from Africa that says, "I am because you are," and so it indicates this relational loop between subject and object. So if a researcher's job is to go out and find out what customers think, feel, do, they're they are getting a lot of information about the customer, but they can double the impact of the learning that happens there by then using that learning to reflect back on the organization, the environment itself. So what did we learn about customers? That's like one. Plus, what did this now prompt us to learn about ourselves and where our strategies and approaches may be in or out of alignment? That's plus one. And then that doesn't just equal two, that equals like four,
Mm-hmm.
or more, infinite, because then you've got this loop of getting feedback, using it to change your strategy internally. And it's not transactional in the sense of we're an organization, we're static, we know everything about what we're doing, and you just go out and get those insights so we can check that box and say whether, how many seconds people could, click through the prototype or whatever they're measuring as success measures.
So I love the way you put that. The I think you said, how did you say I exist if you
I
exist?
am because you are, yes. So
Okay.
I can only be fully human through a reciprocal relationship with you.
So as an example of what I think you're talking about, I'll trot out something that information architects are always dealing with, which is the organization presents itself, let's say, via website, in a way that is organized by its internal org chart, its silos, departments, ways that a customer doesn't really think, and let's say like the place this would always be an issue is, let's say, a corporate intranet. And do you see a lot of other examples? Are there patterns of that sort of mismatch of when you're reflecting back what you're learning from the customer, the organization looks at itself or needs to look at itself and say, oh, yeah, we're totally not existing in a way or doing business in a way that makes sense to our customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that over and over again, large organizations realize that they're presenting their organizational chart to customers in their website, whereas, or their channels, to their customers, whereas, the customer will think of the entity just as the entity, and they don't care if it's online or in the store or whatever. They're interacting with it as a whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
not departments. Um, I also, sorry, I lost my train of thought there
Well,
for a minute. Sorry, go ahead.
are there other examples that you see often that organizations are missing the boat on, like the org chart one?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if this will resonate with you, but I've been having a fun experiment for the last 6 months trying to get my local grocery store, which is called Andronico's. It used to be independent, got bought by Safeway, then it got bought by Albertsons, to restock my favorite flavor of a certain brand of ice cream. And I think it's just a glitch that it didn't that it fell off, like the regular delivery. And the rigmarole that I have gone through to try to get this restocked has exposed this whole world to me of, what is the domain of the store manager versus the nighttime inventory staff who come in and take photographs of the inventory and fill out, what should be there and what's there that should not be there, and how they report that to corporate, and how then that gets measured in terms of their KPIs, which I assume are, uniformity and control and predictability. But what is getting lost in there is the autonomy of the store manager to meet customer needs, and then me sitting on my sofa at night eating my mint chip ice cream. So, so I would say that that process, if they would use, the customer complaint, mechanisms and the feedback from the store managers, they would say, maybe we've swung too far towards uniformity and predictability. And where can we sort of loosen this so that we can customize our inventory locally a bit more?
Well, and that's just ice cream, right? Now, if you are, let's say, a veteran of the military in the U.S. and you are trying to figure out your benefits with the Department of Veterans Affairs, or let's say you are just a person who needs medical care and you're trying to untangle which doctor to talk to for a referral, or how to get how to pay even. And in all those cases, when the bureaucracy tells you to talk to someone else in the same bureaucracy and they say, oh, you can call them, and they don't do it for you, I think those are perfect examples of what you're talking about. Well, it's certainly no surprise, or it's not news to any of us that that these kinds of bureaucratic problems exist with large organizations, and that researchers have a role in untangling them. But after the break, what I'd like to do is dig into some of the advice that you have to researchers in terms of what they can actually do, which I think you're going to be getting into your talk at Advancing Research. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. Everyone, you're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm talking with Robin Beers. We'll be right back.
Research shouldn't be complicated. It should be powerful, flexible, and efficient. That's why leading teams choose Dscout. With Dscout, you get all the insights you need via one easy-to-use platform. Whether it's live interviews or unmoderated usability testing or longitudinal diary studies, Dscout has you covered. And with their industry-leading participant pool and powerful AI analysis capabilities, running powerful research has never been easier. Are you ready to level up your research? Discover Dscout today by visiting dscout.com.
Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm talking with organizational psychologist Robin Beers, who is going to be speaking at Advancing Research 2025 virtual conference taking place March 11th through 13th. And I just want to put in a plug for the conference because you will get to learn from people like Robin who are, in effect, not to put any pressure on you, Robin, but I think you all collectively are outlining a plan, almost a map for researchers to get beyond the current malaise and really be ready for
Absolutely.
the next 5 years. Because,
It's time. Yeah.
and I'm bullish. I think
Yeah,
you
me
are
too.
too. I mean,
Yes.
I think researchers are going to be more necessary than ever, ever, ever. But we got to reframe what we do, and I think that's kind of what you're talking about in your presentation. So let's talk about the researcher facing aspects of what we were just getting into before the break. So what does it mean for a researcher to kind of pivot how they see themselves and how they present themselves to be more of a curator in these multi-siloed bureaucratic environments?
Yes. So I'm going to throw out a bold statement,
Let me
which
sit
is,
down. Oh, okay.
yeah,
I'm already seated. That's good.
I really think that researchers in industry and organizations need to take themselves back from the engine of user experience, digital experience. There's been a UXification of research that has transpired over the last 20 years. Research in industry has been around, at least 150 years. And it's only been within the last 2 decades that we've had, UX and design research. And I think it's about reopening the aperture so that we can help the organization learn about all sorts of things, not just how to make digital products better. Because what I saw in my last several years in inside corporations is that the problems that need to be solved to deliver great experiences are not interface problems. They're
Mm-hmm.
not technology problems. They are organizational issues around strategy, people alignment, culture, um, and those types of human dimensions.
So if I'm a researcher, uh, I, you're telling me I have to be doing very different things than I may have been taught or have been doing. So I'd love to dig into that a little bit, but also, how do I get there? How do I get the organization to see me as someone who can do the kinds of work you're talking about?
Yes. So first of all, it starts with self, right? How do you see yourself? And so the first thing I would impress upon researchers is you have a dual remit. Yes, you are bringing in knowledge, information, insights about the customers to the organization. But the second piece of your remit is to understand the organization itself. And how are these insights going to sync with or maybe clash with the current assumptions that organization may be operating from? And so just, recognizing that piece moves you more into a consultant role than just a research role. And by consultant, that means you're not just delivering a research report, you are asking questions about what are we going to do as a result of this learning.
Well, and I think you're also implicitly saying, or actually you did before the break, that the role of a researcher is to really facilitate organizational learning.
Yes.
Now,
And yeah, I used to have clients who we would do a study for them, and this is internal. We all worked in the same company, and we would learn things that we thought either higher up should know or other product groups or functional areas should know. And sometimes we would get, no, we don't want to share this information with anybody else, maybe because it made them look a way they didn't want to look or put the viability of their ideas in jeopardy, whatever it was. But I developed a response to that, which is, oh, you don't own this research. The company actually owns the research. So that can get uncomfortable if you haven't set that expectation up front. And so I think, in order to kind of pull back from this corner we've gotten into with just like you're just the UX research person into I have the ability to collect information about anything that people choose to talk about in interviews or surveys or whatever. To get that, we need to set that expectation up front. And that can be done by collecting information from your stakeholders at the beginning of the project. What do you want to learn? What do you think you will learn? What are your assumptions going into this? What do you think you already know? And then that gives you a framework to come back and say, yes, there's alignment here. You thought this, and this is what we found. Oh, there's this piece that's out of alignment here. How do you want to reconcile this so that you can solve that dilemma or whatever.
so you
Mhm.
you're framing this as a curation role. Uh, so I'm curious about two things. One, are we curating something different? In other words, a lot of people have talked about rebranding research as insight. So, do you want to rebrand at the same time? Do we need to rebrand? And the other question I have is, you use the term curation, as I said. How come you're not using the term organizational psychologist as a way to reframe what researchers do? So that's two big questions. Sorry to throw them at you at once.
Yeah. Um, so to the curation point, uh, knowledge curators. I think in my talk, organizations or organic evolving systems. So um, I have to be honest with you, and I'm not sure if I was the one that came up with that or if that came to me like through
Oh,
Jem
actually,
or
you
somebody
might
else.
you might be right. This is a little different program for us than we've done in the past, in that we've been more prescriptive about the talks because they were kind of created with a unifying vision. So I'm sorry to put you on the spot there, and yes, I think we probably came up with more of that language than you may have in this case.
I mean, I like the notion of a curator because it connotes putting together ideas or research from disparate places in order to come up with a more complete picture. And that's the other, piece I think of um, getting kind of pigeonholed into one type of insights work is, that we're not zooming out to do the broader sense making work, which might involve, taking a secondary research report along with past research, along with the current research, and creating a more holistic point of view on a particular topic. Maybe it's, keeping our customers safe while they use our product, or how do we ensure that people can do the tasks that they want, but that they also can get the help that they need when they
Mm-hmm.
can't. Those kinds of bigger questions. So curation to me means that you are, like a librarian or a museum curator. You're knowledgeable about a wide range of topics, methods, information that's available, and you can put it together in relevant and interesting ways that is, conducive to that project, that audience, that organization.
Do you find that, like where the rubber meets the road with a lot of this work is falling or should fall into the hands of, a term that we're starting to hear more of now, research librarians, to actually tap into the huge array of tools that have suddenly emerged, the research repository category? Is this where this is kind of going to happen?
I don't think it's only where it's going to happen. I mean, I think I love the direction of having research librarians, because you need that person to, be the historian, the archaeologist, to say, like, this is how we can create these different points of view, or this is where everything lives and how to find it. I'm very much in favor of humans doing that curation and sense making work, but I'm actually not really thinking of this as a role, as much as an orientation, because what I'm asking, researchers to think about is contextualizing their learning about, whatever the topic is that they're studying within the organizational culture, environment, and strategy. And so again, I would go back to, if there's a role, I would think that of that as like a knowledge consultant, and curating is an activity that's part of that.
Are there specific skills that you think of, like if you were going to advise someone who was going to go back to college or go to college or some other kind of learning setting to learn these skills? What should they be studying? What should they focus on? Should they go to library school? Should they go to organizational psychology school? Or
Yeah, well, I'm grateful for my training in organizational psychology because it did teach me the consulting process from, discovery to, shaping a brief and doing some sort of intervention and then measuring the effects of that. I think that can be learned on the job. I am a big fan of people going to school to become educated rather than trained.
mm-hmm.
And I think, with the advent and proliferation of artificial intelligence, it brings up another question about knowledge, which is, if knowledge is at everybody's fingertips and they can just, learn how to write prompts and get answers, then sense making and contextualizing in a particular system is what becomes really valuable. And so learning how to connect the dots between concepts, disparate ideas, seeing parts and wholes, and be able to do that zoom in and zoom out. I guess that's called critical thinking.
Hmm.
But, for years we've been trying to win in business by breaking things into smaller and smaller parts so that we can, control them and manage complexity. But more and more, the problems that we are faced with are so complex that we need to put the pieces back together and see wholes. So how do we practice seeing wholes, um, and as well as breaking things into parts.
I love that. It certainly lines up with my feeling these days that the sense making that happens as far away from the UI, frankly, as possible is where the future is going to lie for many of us, whether we're researchers or designers or other people involved in making things, often digital, but not exclusively, that are going to be used in the future. We could go on for quite some time on this, but I'm really grateful just to have a taste of what you're going to be covering when you speak at Advancing Research in March, on March 13th specifically. Everyone listening in, I do hope you'll join us. It's really going to be a fantastic event, and it is virtual, so you can sign up at the last second. Although you shouldn't. Do it now.
Do it now.
Do it
Get it
now.
on the calendar.
So, Robin, before we wrap up, we got a ritual. It involves a generous gift on your part to our listeners.
Yes.
What do you got for us?
Okay. I've got a book that has blown my mind. Can you see it? It's called Who Do We Choose to Be? And it's by Margaret Wheatley. And she has consulted to leaders, trained leaders all over the globe. I think every continent except Antarctica. And the what she's really tackling in Who Do We Choose to Be is how do we do our work in the face of so much perpetual upheaval and keep our motivation even if we won't be able to affect large system change. And she's got some really confronting ideas. And the one for me that I've been wrestling with is, how do you continue to work for system change without hope? Or do you have to have hope? She calls hope hopium. And she says that you'll have greater resilience and greater perseverance if you face reality and do your work anyway.
Yep, she's not wrong. I love that framing. And I'd love to talk more about that, but I got to hope along now.
Gonna go smoke some hopium?
Oh, gosh.
No.
So before this totally goes off the rails, Robin, thank you. It was great talking with you. Thanks for sharing
Thanks,
today,
Lou.
and for sharing at the conference in March.
Yes.
Good to talk with you.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me, Lou.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Rosenfeld Review, brought to you by Rosenfeld Media. If you like our show, please subscribe and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast platform. I'd love it if you tell a friend to have a listen, and check out our website for over 100 podcasts with other interesting people. You'll find them all at rosenfeldreview.com.